This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, saving your day from boredom with the best podcasting entertainment.
What's up, real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with fellow man-child Johnny Karlic.
Shazam!
And Johnny, before we get into everything, like you said Shazam, we have one hell of a show today.
Yeah, we do.
We got, like, I usually say, oh, we got a jam-packed show for you guys.
No,
This is like, I'm pushing in as much as possible, and the lid won't tighten. The lid won't close on our podcast jar.
Well, then give me the jar.
I'm trying to jam so much into this little jar.
Give me the jar. This is my specialty in high school.
I don't want the jar to break, Johnny. I don't want it to break in your Hulk-sized palm.
No, they're just gorilla.
I should say your King Kong-sized palm that you have. But we are looking at everything from, well, not everything from Comic-Con, but the biggest things.
A lot of big stuff.
From Comic-Con this week, we're going to look at the Titans trailer that came out. Talk about that. We're going to look at Shazam. Talk about that. We're going to look at Aquaman.
Oh, that's why I said
Talk about that. We're going to look at Godzilla. Talk about that. We're also going to look at the Venom movie, which is one of the only Marvel things that we got from Comic-Con this year, as the MCU side of things didn't do a Hall H panel. And then we're going to give our thoughts at the end of kind of like other things that we're hyped about, just kind of to end the podcast as a whole. Before we get into everything, though, want to do a little housekeeping here at the beginning of the podcast. Make sure to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast if you want to help support the channel. And if you join the $10 tier, you could join a Rick and Johnny podcast each month. You are at that tier and talk about whatever you would like to talk about. Also, make sure to check out our store, link down in the description. You can also do that on mostvaluablepodcast.com to get your own MVP t-shirt. You can also go to mostvaluablepodcast.com to catch MVP each and every day. And then last but not least, make sure to check out Apple Podcasts, iTunes. If you have those, go over there, give the Rick and Johnny podcast a 5-star rating. It would really mean the world to us. And type in a little something about why you like listening and watching the podcast each and every week. But Johnny, the one topic that I kind of left off that we're going to start with before we get into all of our Comic-Con stuff is the only big Marvel news. I said, like, oh, Marvel didn't have a Hall H panel.
Well, yeah.
But we did have some big news coming from the Marvel side of things. And this happened, I want to say, Friday night is when there was big wind of this kind of sweeping through the social media world. Disney and Marvel Studios have officially cut ties with screenwriter and director James Gunn. And that's important because not just screenwriter or series writer and director, he's the series writer for Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. Everything Guardians was James Gunn. And the decision was made shortly after older tweets from the filmmaker's now deleted Twitter account where he joked about sensitive topics like pedophilia and rape were brought to light in an article published by right-wing political news site The Daily Caller. Is that it? Conservative commentators like Jack, I'm not pronouncing his last name because I'm probably going to screw it up, Posesbiec, who works for the conservative cable television channel One American News Network, then joined the call for Gunn to be fired. So the thing I want to ask you, Johnny, is first off, before we get into what this means for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, because James Gunn isn't going to be working on it anymore, what were kind of your first thoughts when you heard Disney and Marvel Studios cutting ties with James Gunn because of these tweets?
Well, first thing I thought, because after that I looked into what the tweets were. I was like, well, that sucks because I mean, the one thing, it's like a not a catch-22 either way, it's like both.
Are you thinking it's like a double-edged sword?
Kind of, but both parties are wrong in some sense. Like not Disney necessarily; they're just covering themselves. And that's what any business would do. I mean, it still sucks, but Disney's doing what it needs to do for its business. James Gunn's wrong in the sense of the things he joked about and where he joked about them. You want to do that in your friends group? Go right ahead. Because guess what?
No one's going to see it.
No one's going to see it. No one's going to, like, really be able to get offended by it. And if your friends do, they're going to let it go. Now, you do that on social media, that's a whole nother avenue, and that's a terrible place to do it. On the other side, shame on, what's his name? Jack Posobiec?
Yeah, he's the one that tweeted...
For bringing that into the... I get...
What I'm looking at right now is he's the one that tweeted out a kind of compilation of all these tweets and just said hashtag walk away.
Yeah, no. Shame on him for that because... Just because James Gunn, from another article I read, he does political satire and he's anti-Trump. That's his opinion. But get a man fired for that? And you're not just screwing over him, you're screwing over all the Marvel fans out there because he was the one that made the 2 Guardians of the Galaxy movies what they were. I mean, at least when it comes to the directing and writing sense.
Here's what I was kind of thinking of it. And
I want to say, I don't condone his jokes, like what they were.
Oh, they're horrible.
They're horrible.
They're horrible.
And I get some people joke around like that. That was like 90s humor in a sense. You can go in that avenue and be fine, but this is the 2000s, different day and age. And
to kind of clarify on that before someone jumps down your throat.
Go ahead.
What you mean of that, because me and you were talking about this before the podcast, and this goes into a separate conversation that like
we'll have to do
we could have
time.
on like a Patreon podcast or something, because it really doesn't just specific to our world. Is you'll hear comedians now be like, yeah, man, back in the day, it was a lot easier to joke about things because they were jokes and people wouldn't get so uptight about things.
I'm going to say it the other way. People don't get as butthurt.
Well, let's put it this way. Comedy, in a sense, and this is every single comedian
it's a fine line.
I've heard talked about it. Most comedy for comedians comes from a dark place.
Yeah.
Like most comedians talk about their backstory. It's like, holy crap, that is a dark backstory. But they find humor in that, and then that's where they start to make their comedic career. Now, with these tweets, here's the only problem I have with them firing him now. I don't have a problem if they were like, you know what? These tweets do not stand for what we believe as a company. We are going to fire you. However, the thing I am upset with is, when did the first Guardians movie come out? Do you know that off the top of your head?
No, I know it's early mid-2000s.
I'm going to look it up really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that movie came out in 2014.
That's what I was going to say. It's like the early 20s.
Perfect. You want to know why? All of these tweets were 3 to 5 years before this movie was made. So to me, the only problem I have with it is on the side of Disney and Marvel Studios is, so the tweets weren't a problem when you hired them then, but magically now they're a problem?
Yeah, no, that's one of the points I was going to make.
This.
That's the biggest problem I have. That's one of the points I was going to make earlier.
Like, are the tweets horrible? Yes.
Yeah,
but the
absolutely.
fact that you hired this guy and James Gunn to be the director of Guardians, didn't hold it against him then magically 4 years down the line, you're going to hold it against him. That's what I have a problem with.
That's one of the points I was going to make. Honestly, he even put out and you know what? James Gunn, you still are in the wrong for making those jokes on social media. It was a horrible idea. It was a horrible thing to talk about, especially the topics you picked to joke about. But the fact that Disney didn't have a problem with it, and it was, like you said, 3 to 5 years before they hired him.
2014
it wasn't a problem
when the movie came out.
It wasn't a problem until it was brought into the limelight. Okay, well then that's an issue on your part, Disney, for hiring him in the first place, if that's the case. And it's, like I said, it sucks for everyone, except for apparently Jack Posobiec, who I'm going to keep mentioning his name because I feel like...
you don't like him.
I don't like... Well, he's a dick because, okay, let's drag this in the limelight just because he's an anti-Trump and he's a... That comes into the... I mean, you can say what you want about people. There's always going to be repercussions. But at the same time, you drag this out before and even said, didn't you say he was pushing for him to be fired?
Yeah, a little bit. That's what the hashtag walk away.
Yeah.
Like walk away from him. Also, I'm seeing an article. This is from Entertainment Weekly. 50,000 people have signed a petition for Disney to rehire him.
Yes.
For Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Oh, hell yes.
Because here's the thing I kind of want to go into is if James Gunn is fired and doesn't come back to Guardians 3, what does it mean for the movie?
It's not going to have the same feelings that it did because you can't...
Because he was the sole, like, if you had a question about Guardians, you go to James Gunn.
Yeah, well, he was the one that tweeted about everything for it.
And that's what I liked about him, is you could tweet at him, hey, man, we'd love to see this. And he goes, don't get your hopes up. We're not planning that.
Yeah, or like, hey...
don't expect, I almost said Magneto, not Magneto. Don't expect Galactus at the end of Guardians 3, because I even planned that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He would, like... tweet about the movie. I mean, he's even the one I believe that came out with the what Groot's final I am Groot
exactly
meant.
That
it wasn't the Russo brothers that came out and said it. It was James Gunn,
and he also came out with the fact of like, oh, this baby Groot is not the same Groot.
Yeah, he's the one that's been explaining all this to us, so we have more of an in-depth idea of what this all means.
I'm not hyped. Like I told you before we recorded this podcast that if James Gunn does not get rehired, and of course, before I see the movie, I can say whatever I want, and after the movie, I can be proven wrong, because it's kind of like, I wonder if Guardians 3, I honestly wonder if we'll see any Justice League stuff happen with it.
I hope not.
No. I'm saying just the fact of, that was a movie. You had someone writing and directing it, and then someone else comes in. Nope, not going to do that. Not going to, and they start changing crap.
Yeah,
is it going to change the movie of what it originally was supposed to be and how it relates to the other ones? I told you with my prediction with James Gunn not on it anymore. Guardians 2 is going to be the best Guardians movie. Guardians 1 will be number 2. Guardians 3 is going to be the worst Guardians movie we see.
Here's the thing I say with that. You can probably get someone to do as close to James Gunn as they can probably feel. It's not going to be the same. Yeah. The only other one that I can say could probably save it in a sense like that is if you get Taika. I was going to say Taika Waititi.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
he did Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, he's got the comedic
So
background.
He's got that background, and like I loved Thor Ragnarok. Obviously, best Thor movie there is.
Dude, I watched it again.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
Like that and Infinity War are 1-2 on my list. I think Infinity War is number 1. But
I think so far.
Those two are 1-2 on my list. Spider-Man's number 3.
Oh, wow. Spider-Man got pushed down to 3.
Well, Spider-Man was number 1.
He was number 1. He got pushed down to 3 already.
Yeah, I mean, Thor Ragnarok was good.
Yeah.
And rewatching, I'm like,
Thor Ragnarok was great.
I'm having a great time watching this, just laughing at everything.
But no, I mean, I feel like if they get Taika Waititi, he could save it. He's going to have his own flair. It's going to have a...
I didn't think of Wahiti.
Wahiti? Is that how I pronounce it?
Taika Wahiti?
I messed up. I'm sorry.
Whatever. I mean, Wahiti... One of us.
I apologize for mispronouncing your name if you end up watching this.
It's probably Watiti. I think you're right. I think I'm wrong.
But I mean, he could save it. But
I
otherwise,
didn't even think of him though. If they don't go with him though, what do you go with?
What are you gonna do? And I know he said he did bad things. But also unlike a lot of people, he actually put out a 4-part apology / explanation. And I'm saying it's apology because it wasn't, I'm sorry for doing this. I didn't think it through type thing, but I did it because of my humor, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there's an explanation. Sort of, some people may say it as an excuse. But at least he apologized for it, for one. 2, again, I'm not a fan of people like, I'm done saying his name. People pulling names like Jack, thank you. I already knew it. I just was people like Jack pulling old things out into the spotlight to make an issue. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like that. I think it's stupid. People change over the years.
Well, I'm gonna throw
let me finish real quick.
Ahead.
So this was 3 to 5 years we stated before Guardians. He got hired as a director for Disney. In that time, that 3 to 5 years. Even after that, I haven't checked his tweets anytime after that. People change.
Nothing has come up, and that's another thing.
Maybe that's why he stopped doing those tweets if he hasn't tweeted like that.
And that's the most important thing is it has been almost 10 years since those tweets. If you go from the earliest one, 2009, it's like 9 years, but I'll round up to 10. people change over time.
Exactly.
Like, what is he doing?
He may regret
recently?
saying that.
I'm going to relate this to, I know you probably haven't heard anything about it because you're not a sports guy.
No, I'm not.
But it's like
Right.
there's a pitcher for the have you heard about this? What was going on with the one Brewers pitcher?
Probably not.
So Josh Hader is a 24-year-old pitcher on the Brewers. He was in the All-Star game this past Tuesday. During the All-Star game on Tuesday, people started on social media digging up and finding old racist tweets that he had said when he was, let's say, what was it, 7 years? He was 17 at the time. So it was about, 7 years ago that he made these tweets. And part of me with that story is like, all right, the tweets are horrible. But at the same time, if you went back to, thank God I didn't have a Twitter in high school.
Yeah.
Because in high school, you think everything is the funniest thing and that, like,
oh, God,
everything that you say is, like, gold and this is hilarious.
Thank God Twitter wasn't a thing in high school for us.
Unless you've got friends like I did that would shoot that shit down and keep you in check. They'd knock you down a peg so that you don't get too high for yourself. That was the one thing I loved in high school. My friend group, we did that for each other. Got to knock them down a peg. Got to make sure they're not too high for their britches.
We didn't mind joking around on certain topics in our friend group.
Yeah.
But if you're out in public, we knew better than to say certain things. We don't make those jokes.
I'll be completely honest. None of them are this bad.
Oh, no, they're not this bad.
None of them are this bad, but, like, I will get the reminders from Facebook, like, hey, remember when you said this? Like, the memory thing?
Yeah.
And, like, this is college, Ricky, like sophomore, freshman in college, Ricky. I tell people, I look at that stuff, and I just want a time machine to go back in time. Just go to my younger self. Hey, Ricky, what's up? Just punch myself in the face. Just punch myself in the face because it's like, what? Did I really think this was funny? And no one called me out for this?
Let's put it this way. We graduated 10 years ago. The shit that I thought would be prevalent in my life back then is not now. I actually, so in our senior year of high school, our teacher had us make a little time capsule with like a written thing of what we think is going to be our life in 10 years from now. I look at it like, well, I did half of one of those. The rest of this dropped out. I'll just be honest and I'll just state a little bit of my background. I used to be a music major for my first 3 years of college, and then I just dropped out of that. And that's what one of the big ones on there was music major.
I'm trying to see if I can find.
I mean, that's a huge thing. That was like all of high school was wrapped around that. A chunk of grade school was wrapped around me being in music. I haven't touched my instrument in like a year.
All right, so
if not more. And it's only because someone asked me to play for their band.
Well, that's like for me too. I used to teach music. I haven't touched mine in forever.
Yeah.
Like what? It's got to be like 4 or 5 years since I've touched those instruments.
Yeah.
And they're just in my basement collecting dust.
No,
and I spent
back in my closet.
You spent thousands on those instruments, like the high end ones that I did.
Thousands.
My clarinet was like $1,500, and my saxophone.
See, I never
was
got an
around
expensive
the same
one like
thing.
that.
Well, I went more into this music major thing than you did.
Well, a little bit.
I was hoping that I could find old Facebook things for mine, but the ones from today are not that bad. 8 years ago today, I put, so it's official, I'm going to bring the word Coolio back. I thought I was so cool for that. And then the second one was...
I think it was already a thing then, Ricky.
And then 9 years ago, I said, wow, ... the Taco Bell dog died, ...
Oh, that's sad.
That was one of the 9 years ago today, I found out the Taco Bell dog died. But last thing I wanted to bring up with this was basically, there's an article here that I'm looking at from independent.co.uk, and they kind of list some stuff that the actors from Guardians have said about this James Gunn thing. Yeah. Because my last thought was Sean Gunn.
Oh, yeah.
If you are Sean Gunn,
right?
What do you do? Do you stay in the movie? Because technically, he's at the end of Guardians 2, spoilers if you haven't seen it, he's got Yondu's arrow
and the
fin. He's trying to work on it. So obviously, we thought he'd be in Guardians 3. My first thought was him is, do you be like, fuck this, I got to stand up for my own kin, I'm leaving this. But like, I think Dave Bautista put it perfectly. He defended Gunn by saying, he's made mistakes. We all have. Now, the difference between the Hader and Gunn situations, the Hader one being that baseball player I brought up, Hader was 17 when he made those tweets. James Gunn was 41. So, like, there's that, too, where it's like, dude, as a 41-year-old guy, you should kind of know that people aren't going to like this too much. But at the same time, there was also, it was a different time. And I don't want that to seem like I'm just dismissing it. He was also 41. So you can't play the card of like, he was just a high schooler.
No,
he didn't know
exactly. And I
better.
get that. He should have known better at the time. And that's the thing. Like you and I stated, he should have known better. So shame on him for that. At least he acknowledged that he said something wrong. And I mean, after the fact, you apologize for it. But still, he acknowledged that he said something wrong. But I mean, how many people have said something they regret from 3, 5, 7 years ago?
If it was a year or two ago, it'd be way different.
No, it would. It's like you're already part of Guardians of the Galaxy. You're already part of Disney. Yeah. Then you said this shit. That's deplorable.
10 years ago, let's see, 2009. What was James Gunn working on? 2010. He was a writer for Super. Remember that movie that we watched?
The TV
Dwight,
series?
No, Super.
Super.
With Dwight from The Office.
Yeah.
How messed up that was.
Yeah.
He was a writer for that.
No wonder.
So now you know where his humor comes from a little bit.
That was
also
pretty fucking dark.
He was also a writer for Movie 43, which was kind of a raunchy movie in itself. And I'm not saying that to defend his tweets. I'm just saying that when you hired him, you kind of knew what you were getting humor-wise.
You already knew that
obviously
was
why
out there.
you hired him, because he's a funny guy and
so,
he can help you.
I'm not a fan of Disney firing him for that reason.
Well, and it also becomes a question of these companies having to save face.
Yeah.
Because it's, do we fire him or do we risk the,
Backlash?
People not coming to our movies? I feel like Marvel fans will come no matter what. There'll be a few that drop off, I think.
But you're the ratio of that to Marvel fans that'll go. A lot of people will end up letting it go because, again, if they have a mentality like you and I do, that was like 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and just to say,
people change. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not defending what he said. I'm defending like more of the idea of you're firing him way after the fact.
I almost would be, and I'm not going to get into this because I'm not a legal guy, but I said it to Dave before. Dave, I was confused. Dave, I was sorry. I was confused. Dave, I didn't realize it was James Gunn. I thought it was someone who worked with James Gunn on it. Here's what Sean Gunn had to say. I hope it goes without saying that I love and support my brother James, and I'm quite proud of how kind and generous and compassionate he is with the people in his life, whether they are friends, family, colleagues, fans, or strangers. Then in 2 tweets, I guess he had a series of 10, but in this article they only list these 2. Number 9. So I guess my hope is that fans continue to watch and appreciate the Guardians movies, not despite the fact that the filmmaker used to be kind of a jackass, but because of it. They are, after all, movies about discovering your best self. And then number 10, he said, working on those movies made my brother a better person, and they made me one too. I'm proud of that. Peace. The only one that I've seen not comment on this, you want to guess who it is? Chris Pratt. He's one of the only ones, I believe, not to comment. They have in this article, fellow Guardians actor Chris Pratt has yet to respond, deciding not to comment during an appearance at Comic-Con supporting the Lego Movie 2. So I will ask you this, Johnny, just kind of put this all on a bow before we get into our Comic-Con stuff. Any final thoughts on the James Gunn firing by Disney and Marvel Studios?
It's just all a shame.
Do you think the petition gets him back? Do you think if enough people sign a petition,
I would
Disney
hope
might
so.
sign him back?
Disney might sign him back. Just like if you see it, there's enough people out there.
50,000 right now.
Yeah, it's 50, I mean, if you got into the millions, I have an idea that Disney might start thinking about it again. It's like, okay, you got this many people already following, saying, okay, yeah, they want him back. Maybe we should hire him back and just see if how bad the flack really gets. Or even Disney could just say, an article can be put out that Disney thinking about hiring him back, see what the backlash would be.
So here's the last thing I'm going to say. Patton Oswalt got into it as well.
Yeah.
And he said, this is one of the less disgusting tweets from Mike Cernowitz, the dude who's after running a Gamergate-style smear campaign, just got James Gunn fired from Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Okay, have a good weekend. And I'm going to let you guys look that tweet up because I'm not going to say that tweet because it's not really a good tweet. You could look up Mike Cernowitz and probably find that, and look Patton Oswalt as well because he tweeted it out. But this is where you guys come in. Obviously, this is a conversation. It's not just me and Johnny talking
we
to
want
ourselves.
to know your opinions.
We are talking to you guys too, talking alongside with you guys. So this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section.